What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the J Area Podcast. My name is Jose, and if you've been listening to this podcast, you know that I am a fan of all the Bay Area sports teams. So, for example, the San Francisco Giants, the Niners, and the Golden State Warriors. Beginning this episode, I wanted to talk about the San Francisco Giants for a moment. You don't understand how excited I was opening up one of my, notifications on my phone and seeing that we had potential to sign Aaron Judge to a contract, right? And so here I am helping my dad put up the Christmas lights on our roof, on our house. And I'm on top of a ladder, like a 12-foot ladder. And I feel my watch go off. And I read it, and it says, we have Aaron Judge. And the fact that we were able to get Aaron Judge on the San Francisco Giants, I should say, had me so amped because baseball is my third favorite sport, right behind football and basketball. And with a signing like that, that's huge. That's monumental. That's something that can change the trajectory of a franchise. And then how quick it changed when, not even a couple minutes later, I get another notification that says, correction. Apparently, the guy that broke the news jumped the gun, and Aaron Judge had not selected the team that he was, going to play for. And then eventually, the next morning, it's announced that he will, re-sign with the New York Yankees. The amount of disappointment that I felt in that moment, and it's like I already knew too, because by the time word reaches that, okay, the Giants offered him this, but he's still thinking about it. Well, that gives the Yankees an opportunity to either match or offer a better contract to Aaron Judge. So I can't fault him. The brand of the New York Yankees, second to none when it comes to the major leagues. And on top of that, it's somewhere it's somewhere where you're building up your reputation and your legacy. Why wouldn't you want to stay with the Yankees? My only gripe with this is what that reporter did to the Giants. Because again, I wholeheartedly believe that in that moment, that basically screwed over the Giants' chance with, Aaron Judge. That's my quick spiel on the San Francisco Giants and the New York Yankees deal with Aaron Judge. Again, congratulations to him. Hopefully he does well. He had a great year this past season. Much props to him. But moving forward, of course, the San Francisco 49ers are the main talking point on this podcast. And the big news, of course, Jimmy Garoppolo out for about 7 to 8 weeks due to a foot injury that will not require surgery, but I'll get into that into a moment. It was during the first quarter of the San Francisco's game against the Miami Dolphins in what was heralded as the game of the week, as it was two similar offenses and defenses facing off against each other. Of course, it was Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, one of the best offenses in the league against arguably the best defense in the league. And, again, Jimmy Garoppolo would sustain an injury, again, out for 7 to 8 weeks. And Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, the very last pick in the draft, makes his way into the starting lineup now as a result of this injury. In a season where we not only lost our number 3 overall pick, Trey Lance, to a broken foot, I might add, we also lose Jimmy Garoppolo, a former Super Bowl starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, and now we are down to the very last pick in the draft, the 2022 draft, Brock Purdy. I'm not going to lie to you, initially when Jimmy Garoppolo goes down, I was a little nervous. I thought, well, there goes our chances, there goes our season. But behind this defense, which I think is the best defense in the league, and a pretty exceptional run game, I think there's still an opportunity for some noise to be made in the playoffs. Do our Super Bowl chances, go down? I do think so, but I don't think that they're completely, knocked out of contention. I do think it's going to become a little bit more difficult for them, given that their quarterback now lacks experience, and he'll be having his first career start this upcoming weekend against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and of course the GOAT, Tom Brady, who I'm pretty sure has a bit of a grudge against the San Francisco Niners, being that they kind of passed on him multiple times in his, storied career. But going back to Brock Purdy, I was initially nervous about having him come into the game. Again, a lack of experience against one of the best teams in the NFL at the moment, the Miami Dolphins. But this kid really showed me something. I thought the poise, the concentration, the patience, He does hold on to the ball a little bit longer than I would like. On some plays, there were other plays where he was able to get the ball off really quick. The accuracy, again, just he has, the saying goes, he has his head on his shoulders. This guy knows what he is, understands the opportunity that's ahead of him, and recognizes that this is a great opportunity for Brock Purdy. What a story, right? What a story it would be if the last pick in the draft were to lead the San Francisco 49ers to the Super Bowl. I'm going to go on the record right now and start saying it, that if Brock Purdy somehow manages to bring a Super Bowl to San Francisco, I will get his jersey tattooed, because I have that much faith in this guy. The offense that the San Francisco 49ers run is not heavily reliant on the quarterback play. We have playmakers such as George Kittle, we have Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Kyle Juszczyk, just to name a few on the offense. Of course, there's a bunch of other folks that I could be naming again, but those are just to name a few. Behind one of, if not the best defense in the league. And this is going through our third quarterback, Trey Lance, who again doesn't have the starting experience, Jimmy Garoppolo, who many believe is about an average quarterback, and Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft. What a story it would be if he would be able to do the unthinkable. You think about guys like Kurt Warner, undrafted, bagging groceries, gets the call, plays for the St. Louis Rams, leads them to one of the greatest seasons, one of the greatest offensive seasons in NFL history, becoming a Super Bowl champion, an MVP, a Hall of Famer. Tom Brady, 199th pick in the draft, fell all the way to the 7th round. Now he's the all-time greatest. I'm not, of course, it'd be crazy for me to compare Brock Purdy, after one game I might add, to compare him to a Tom Brady or a Kurt Warner, but hey, crazy things have happened. Another guy that just popped in my head, Nick Foles, became the backup for Carson Wentz after Carson Wentz had an MVP caliber season. He became the starting quarterback, led the Eagles to a Super Bowl. I'm just saying, crazier things have happened. I think we have to remain optimistic about this team. Again, no one said it was going to be easy, but I think given that our defense and our playmakers are there, I still think that our chances are alive. I did a little bit of research, and Brock Purdy, born in Gilbert, Arizona, right? And the Super Bowl this year will be taking place in Glendale, Arizona, where the Arizona Cardinals play. And again, what a story that would be if the hometown hero, well, again, maybe not the hometown hero because he doesn't play for the Cardinals, but for the hometown kid to come back and pull off the unthinkable. And again, the odds of this happening isn't all that high, but I can dream. I can be optimistic. I try to be as optimistic as I can in all facets of my life, because if you remain, as a pessimistic or a negative point of view, you'll never be happy. And at this very moment, I'm a lot more confident than I was when Brock Purdy first entered the game against the Miami Dolphins. A game, real quick, that I will recap. The Miami Dolphins only able to score 17 points. The Niners were able to score 33 points. They weren't able to hold their opponent to 0 points as they had done 4 games in a row prior. They did only allow 7 points, and those came in the fourth quarter. But what I saw from the San Francisco 49ers, I think the defense, it's phenomenal. Aside from a couple of plays, the first play where it was a 75-yard passing touchdown from Tua Tagovailoa to Trent Sherfield, that caught them off guard, right? And then on top of that, Tyreek Hill ended up burning one of his defenders for a 45-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter. Aside from those 2 plays, it was a very clean game by the defense. The offense, they're still a little bit more reliant on the kicking game than I would like, but thankfully we have one of the best kickers in the game in Robbie Gould. But with guys like CMC, Kittle, Deebo, Ayuk, again, the names that I have listed already, I feel like this is a team that should be able to be putting up more points offensively. Thankfully, the defense even got a scoop and score. Dre Greenlaw, 23-yard fumble return in the fourth quarter just to close out the game and ice it for them. But again, there's still room for improvement. The offense that we run as an organization has never really been heavily reliant on a quarterback. You look back in 2019 when the Niners made their playoff run that would ultimately lead to a Super Bowl appearance. Jimmy Garoppolo had games where he only threw the ball 7 times, 10 times. they don't need him to throw the ball a lot. They need to defend. They need to run the ball, run the clock, and it is proven to have been a recipe for success. Even the year after, 2 years after, in 2021, when they made the NFC Championship, again, the same formula. It's a proven record. It can work. Unfortunately, they just came across teams that were a little bit more difficult to defend in the LA Rams last year and the Kansas City Chiefs 2 years ago. Do they have a good shot at winning the Super Bowl? I would like to think so, but again, maybe some people would think that I'm biased about that. But all bias aside, I feel like for those that have kept up with the games, the only question mark that we have had as a team currently constructed is the quarterback position. And how ironic would it be that we were so focused on Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, who would be the quarterback of the future, who would lead this team moving forward, and who would provide the best chance of a Super Bowl for this team. And ultimately, it's really down to neither of them. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, it is currently in his hands. It is currently up to him to perhaps fulfill the destiny of this team. And when I say that, I spoke to someone at work regarding this situation. I said, are they a team of destiny? Who knows? Again, the story. The NFL loves to have these stories where it's remarkable. Like, again, those Cinderella stories, whether it was the 99 Rams, the 07 Giants, the 2017 Eagles, the 2001 Patriots. Like, I could keep going on and just naming this. And the narrative that this could, tell for years to come. Who would have thought? Now, granted, there's some people who think it's scripted, some people think it's fake. I try not to think in that way. But still, life just has a funny way of working itself out. And whether it's sports or not, in life, there's always these experiences and instances that we can't explain, that sometimes it's just a coincidence. But ultimately, I've always believed that things happen for a reason. And if me believing that the Niners, winning this year's Super Bowl is delusional, or it's a reach, whatever, that's for me to decide, and that's for you to judge. But you cannot deny that in life there are certain times where there's just no explanation and things just happen for a reason. So I'm calling it right now. I'm calling my shot. Again, I referenced it earlier. If Brock Purdy, the current starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, leads this team to a Super Bowl, I will gladly get a tattoo of his number on me. And I will share that with everyone all over social media, all my friends, all my family. I don't have any tattoos, but I've always wanted to get one, and it's just a matter of what would it be, right? Because your first one is very important. They say it's permanently. Of course, some people can pay to have it removed, but I don't want to have a tattoo and have it removed. I want something that has meaning, and that would have a tremendous meaning, not only for myself, but for my family, given that we're all big fans of the San Francisco 49ers. And it's a tough relationship between them and us. It's a love and hate relationship, as my brother Jared would say, because we love to love them and they just hate to hate us. But given that, the San Francisco 49ers now have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers walking into Levi Stadiums. Tom Brady, fresh off of a big comeback victory on Monday Night Football against the New Orleans Saints, who for the first time he was able to sweep, I believe, since arriving in Tampa Bay. And I'm glad that he got that out of his system. I'm glad that he got the comeback out of his system, because I'm hoping that our defense is able to limit the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have been struggling all year offensively. It appears that they cannot find their mojo. Defensively, they're okay. I won't say they're bad, but I think they're good. I think San Francisco, this is a game they should win. And now that Brock Purdy's going to have a full week to prepare as a starter, have the playbook, get the game plan in mind, I believe he will go out and he will perform. I don't think, obviously he's not going to have a perfect game, because he is going to be facing the Tampa Bay, who are defending Super Bowl champions from 2 years ago. And just the fact that he's going to be playing against Tom Brady is very intimidating enough. But I do think that Kyle Shanahan and company will be able to prepare him, along with the other members of our team, for this game. We win this game, it'll be 6 games in a row, and we will maintain the number 1 spot in the NFC West, as well as the 3rd seed in the NFC playoffs. We're currently, if the playoffs were to start, we would face the New York Giants. I do like our shot against the Giants. The only team I look at on paper and think, okay, they're going to give us some trouble, is Dallas and perhaps Philadelphia. I think those are the two teams that definitely are the cream of the crop when it comes to the NFC. If we can get past them, I think we can get past anybody. And with Jimmy Garoppolo, I did believe that we could beat anybody and everybody in our way. But now that he's gone, there's a little bit more limitation, a little bit more skepticism from outside sources who are looking in. I think as long as they maintain that clear objective of don't turn the ball over, run the ball, run the clock, and defend like they keep defending, the Niners can win a Super Bowl this year. And it's like I told my brother, Kyle Shanahan is under contract until 2026. He's got to get at least one. You can't tell me with the roster that he has right now, he can't just get one. Because if the Rams could get one, I'm telling you, there's just no way. And I'm recording this fresh off of the Rams' victory on Thursday Night Football. And I got to tell you, I'm really disappointed. I truthfully thought they weren't going to win that game. I thought for sure that the Raiders had it in the bag. But Baker Mayfield leads a 98-yard drive, a touchdown drive for the win. Good for Baker, good for the Rams. But given that the Rams, had they lost, would have been eliminated from playoff contention, that's only prolonging the inevitable. They got Baker Mayfield for the rest of the season. I don't envision the Rams making some kind of miracle run to gain the a wild card spot, because they're not getting the division. Ain't no way in hell. To make a miraculous run for the wild card, I just don't see it happening. Again, they're only prolonging the inevitable, but the fact that the Raiders gave up this game to a guy who only had been there for 2 days, Baker Mayfield, is ridiculous. I think Josh McDaniels isn't going to make it out of the season. He didn't make it out of Denver. He sure as hell isn't going to make it out of Vegas. He might just end up going back to the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia and everyone else that ends up going back, because they can't be a head coach without Bill Belichick. But regardless, I digress. Moving on from the NFL, I'm going to be going into the NBA now. And given that the NFL season is now kind of winding down, I can now move forward in interest with the NBA. Right around this time, Christmas time is when you can start seeing teams beginning to separate. I think the clear cream of the crop is the Boston Celtics. They have the best record in the league. You could argue it was the Phoenix Suns, but after the loss that they suffered to the Boston Celtics, it's night and day. And that was the first game back for Chris Paul after missing about a month's time. But now that the Suns had lost, the New Orleans Pelicans have earned that number 1 seed in the West, which is ridiculous. I have a friend named Daniel who did call that the New Orleans Pelicans were going to be great this year. During the preseason, he saw a couple games and he tried to put me on the hype train and said, hey, these New Orleans Pelicans, man, they're serious. They're serious. And he was right. Currently sit at the number 1 seed in the West without Brandon Ingram, I might add. Definitely a team to keep an eye on. You want to talk about keeping an eye on, it's becoming increasingly difficult to continue to watch the Golden State Warriors. I'll continue to watch them because they're my team and I'm a big fan of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson and company. But the loss that they had against the Utah Jazz was just tough. I mean, this is a game they definitely should have won, given that they were leading the game with so little time left on the clock. And Jordan Poole eventually turns the ball over and it leads to the game-winning layup for Utah. Granted, we were missing some starters, and I don't think anybody would have faulted us for losing that game without those starters. But being that we remained in the game, competitive, and really should have won the game, given that there was so little time left on the clock, and we gave up the ball, and we ended up losing the way we losing. It's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow. So, in the past week, the Giants lost Aaron Judge. The Warriors lost a couple more games, and the Niners lost Jimmy Garoppolo. But the only team I'm truly optimistic is the 49ers, just because of the way they're built. I think it's a Super Bowl roster. And if you don't agree with that, I don't know what to tell you. Because when you have arguably a top 3 tight end in George Kittle, I think he's number 2, but I'll give you top 3. You have one of the best wide receiver duos in Ayuk and Debo, both physical running, wide receivers. One that could even play running back at this rate. You have Christian McCaffrey, who I think is again a top running back. You have the best fullback, the best left tackle, one of the best offensive minds in the game, and the best defense. And your only question mark is a quarterback who is not only driven and determined to prove his worth, but has also demonstrated that he's not too bad himself. Some people had him being the best quarterback coming out of training camp and preseason for the Niners. Granted, of course, Jimmy Garoppolo didn't really play, and Trey Lance, again, didn't really get that many reps. But I'm telling you, I think it's the team of destiny. Keep an eye on San Francisco. I don't envision them going perfect the rest of the year. I do think they're going to end up dropping 1 or 2 games. I think we'll end up, finishing still with a good record, right? So currently we're 8-4. Yeah, I think we'll finish with maybe like 10, 11 wins. I think that's fair to say. But just to keep an eye on them. Other teams, of course, to keep an eye on in the NFL. I think the Chiefs, for sure. Absolutely. The Eagles, the Cowboys. The Bengals have increasingly become more interesting now that Jamar Chase is coming back. Joe Burrow is now in the MVP conversation. But I still think the Super Bowl is open. I think the window is really there for the taking for any one of these teams. And there's always that one playoff team that ends up making a little bit deeper run that we weren't initially anticipating. So, again, something to keep an eye on as we move forward into Week 14 for the NFL. And again, now that Christmas time is upon us and the NBA begins to become a little bit more interesting, a little bit more competitive, and you get to see the seedings and the standings become a little bit clearer in terms of who is where on the hierarchy of the NBA. But this week, the Golden State Warriors will be taking on the Boston Celtics, who I mentioned are the best team in the league, it looks like. And a rematch of the 2022 NBA Finals. I think it's a game definitely that Boston should win. I would love to see the Golden State Warriors pull out a victory here, but I'm a realist. Not only am I optimistic, I'm also a realist, and I don't think it's a game that we're going to end up winning, especially given that Boston's probably still a little bit sour over the NBA Finals loss this past summer. So I anticipate that they're going to go out and, defeat the Golden State Warriors. And the season's not over yet. I mean, I know we were the sixth seed at one point. We got a couple losses and dropped to 10. But given that we're still only about 3 games out of, the top 4 spot, still optimistic as always. And there's still plenty of time left in the season. And we'll move from there. We'll get the adjustments that we need to make. Hopefully Klay Thompson can get out of his shooting slump and we can figure out this lineup. But, Golden State Warrior fans continue to support the team at this point. And given that we've won the NBA championships 4 out of the last decade, I think it's time to start slowing down and recognizing, okay, maybe, during this iteration of the team, we won't have another championship for quite some time. I'm not saying another 40 years, but definitely not as easy as it has been this past decade. And we've now reached the point of the podcast where I've talked about my sports teams and I really dived into what was going on during the current events. We've reached the point where now I can just air out my own opinion at this rate. And first of all, I want to go ahead and thank everybody that's been supporting the podcast and messaging me your kind words and the support again. I really do take pride and am proud of the content that I've been producing this last few months. Still a growing progress. We're still learning, and I think that's the best part, is it's learning just how to get better. Because in life, if you're not aiming to be the better version of yourself, or regardless of what you're doing, whether it's work or personal life or relationship, friendship, family members, if you're not aiming to grow and to become a better version of yourself, what are you really doing, right? So once again, I just want to go ahead and thank everybody. It's been tough, I will not lie, given that, fresh out of college, a lot of places are looking for experience, and unfortunately, given COVID these last couple of years, not a lot of places were giving out opportunities, and decided to make up my own and produce my own podcast, produce my own content, air my own opinions. May not have to agree with them, may not have to like them, but hey, if you're listening still, just know that I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will continue to do my best to not only grow as a speaker, but as a podcast host, and we'll see where life will take us from here on out. I do plan on to continue producing more content regarding the Bay Area, just because I'm such a big fan of the sports teams there, and it's become, a second home for myself and for my family. But I do also want to grow out in a way that I'm able to present my own opinions on current events in life and news, and really just build up a relationship with a lot of people that may not know me or have spoken with me in some time, because as life goes on and you lose touch with some people, And I've always thought that this would be a great opportunity to not only dive in and discuss my favorite topics of sports because I'm such a sports fanatic, but also just to build a relationship with those around me in ways that, I didn't really think possible 5 years ago. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, what I thought I would be doing, I probably would have a different answer every time you ask me. And that's the type of person that I've always become is regardless of what I'm going to be doing with my life, I'm going to be going 110%. I'm going to give everything I got, or I'm not going to give everything at all. And I think that's one way to live your life, is to continue to put forth the best effort that you can provide, because at the end of the day, you'll know that not only am I not cheating myself, I'm not cheating those around me. I'm not going to half-ass my effort. I'm going to continue to do the very best that I can do while also being the best version of myself. And I know from personal experience, life kind of has a way of teaching us a lesson in different facets of life. And as I mentioned previously, whether it's, in school, work, a relationship with your family member, a significant other, or a friend, every moment in your life is an opportunity to learn and to move forward. And I think that's just the beauty in it all. For those that know me, I don't, I don't choose to provide an image of myself in that I'm like philosophical. That's not who I am. But I do enjoy speaking with other people about their opinions and their points of view in life, and how they approach their goals, or even their fears and how they approach those. Because you can take anything from anyone. In any conversation, there is a lesson to be learned. And I feel like if we pick each other's brains and we're able to develop much more broader opinions, I think we're able to accomplish a lot more in our life. Again, professionally, personally, regardless of the stance or regardless of your position in life. I think it's always important to continue to learn. And it's been a process, given that this is now, I believe, episode 27 of the podcast, and it has seen some evolution. For those that have kept through it the whole time, I thank you and I appreciate you. And you can definitely tell that the evolution of the podcast has changed quite some time. I know initially we had episodes that were running like an hour long, and I decided maybe we'll cut them a little shorter just to be a little more condensed and get to the point on what I wanted to speak about. There was a period in time where we had a little bit of video provided, but given, scheduling and, just the quality that I wanted to produce, I thought maybe it wasn't the right time. But over time, as it continues to grow, and with your support and with your words of encouragement, I hope to also grow this into something big and something that I can be proud of. And at this rate, it's become my baby. It's become my child at this rate. I'm just raising it up to what I think it can become and giving it the opportunity that it can be, and hoping for the best. And just to wrap up this episode, hopefully, continuing to apply myself and apply my craft, an opportunity will present itself, because I do believe that the biggest selling point is ourselves, the way we speak about ourselves and sell our product, and the product being ourself. If you're able to sell yourself in an efficient way, in an honest way, and in a confident way, you can achieve anything in your life. And I wish that for each and every one of you. And as we bring this episode to a close, I just want to give a major thanks to all you listening, and continue to support the podcast. And as always, you can find me on all social media platforms at JustJose_3. Be sure to follow the podcast on Spotify, or even subscribe to the YouTube channel, J Area Podcast, where of course you can find each episode of this show. Once again, major thanks for dropping by and hanging out with us. And if you enjoy these episodes, be sure to leave a like, comment your own thoughts and opinions, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, J Area Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, my name has been Jose. This has been the J Area Podcast, and I will see you next week.